Hi there costume nerds, I am Richie Stormtrooper, welcome to my channel. This is where I intend to help you build your own accurate Stormtrooper armour. Now, in this first video we're going to be looking at the differences between the versions of the Stormtrooper in the first two Star Wars movies. Episode 4, A New Hope, and Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back. Before we get started, if the video does turn out to be interesting and useful for you, please do like and subscribe to the channel. I would be really glad to have you on board, and I'm going to be making this my little space on the internet where I share all my knowledge of costume building. I'm due anytime now to receive a new big brown box full of Stormtrooper armour, a Stormtrooper armour kit, and I'm going to be building that together with you. I'm going to be filming every step, so I can take you through it step by step, show you exactly how I build it, give you some options, and hopefully produce a full Stormtrooper building tutorial for you. Now, this is probably the first question you've been confronted with if you are planning to build your own Stormtrooper armor, you make your own Stormtrooper costume. If you're anything like me, you started out and you thought, yep, I want to make a Stormtrooper costume, and you thought, they're all the same, right? In the films, they look pretty much the same. Unfortunately, that's not the case, and if your ambitions are building anything relatively accurate, then you're going to have to look further into this question. In the ideal situation, you are watching this video or trying to answer this question before you have bought your armor, but don't worry if you have already bought your armor. The chances are this video is going to be relevant because we're talking about Stormtrooper costumes from the original trilogy, from episodes 4, 5 and 6, and the chances are if you've already bought a kit of armor, it's going to be suitable for one of these two versions that we're discussing now. Episode 4 or Episode 5, or ANH or ESB. So a quick background then to this question. For the original Star Wars movie in 1976, when they were filming in 1976, around 50 suits, I think 50 suits and 50 helmets were produced for filming. They were used for both the Stormtroopers in Tatooine, but what we also refer to as the Sand Troopers, and the Stormtroopers. We're just looking at Stormtroopers as they were seen on the Death Star, and not in the desert, not the dirty guys, the Sand Troopers from the desert. They're also a different, they have their own little details, but we're looking at Stormtroopers costumes now. So around 50 suits of armor were made, including 50 helmets, what are referred to as stunt helmets. We'll look into that a bit more later, but we're not talking about hero helmets. There were probably 6 better quality helmets produced in a better grade of plastic with some different details. They're known as the hero helmets now. They were for close-up work, typically the scenes you see with Han and Luke dressed as Stormtroopers. We're not going to be looking at the hero helmets or the hero versions of the costume today. We're looking at what is known as a stunt costume, the normal background Stormtrooper and the normal helmet. Of these 50 costumes, these 50 suits of armor, some survived for the filming of Empire Strikes Back, Episode 5, and they were indeed reused. The good news is, if you've already bought your armor and you're trying to address this question, which version do I need to make, then the chances are it's going to be, unless you have specifically looked for Return of the Jedi armor, it's going to be suitable for an ANH version or an ESB version. So why is this question important as to which version you are going to make? Well, there were some relatively minor differences that the casual viewer of the movies would not have noticed. They indeed are the same sets of armor, the same helmets, but there were some details that when you take a closer look, they really are quite different. Now, it is possible to build something like a generic Stormtrooper, something between the two, and if your interest is only really casual and you are not planning, for instance, to join the 501st Legion, then you can go that route. But that's one of the key words there. If you are indeed intending on joining a costuming club like the 501st Legion, then you are not going to meet the entry level requirements if you try and make a generic Stormtrooper costume. So we're going to look at the differences then between the two versions, and we're going to start with the helmet. For the sake of this video, I'm going to be showing you my replicas, of course, because I have them on hand and I can show you close up the various details. I will try and show some references on screen of original movie stills or things from the archives, from Lucasfilm archives, because don't fall into the trap of making your replica based on somebody else's replica. Do not copy my replica or anybody else's. Use original references as much as you can. But for the sake of pointing out the details and being able to have something physical in my hands, I'm going to show you my replicas. Now this is a replica stunt Stormtrooper helmet, finished to be a replica of the episode 4 ANH. From now on I will just say episode 4 ANH, but you know it's the original Star Wars movie from 1977, episode 4 A New Hope. And we see that one thing that people often do not realize is that this, we call this area the frown. The painted area, which is kind of like a mouth, is around the nose. It was indeed painted grey. It's a dark grey colour, a gloss colour, probably modelling paint like you use for those FX models or whatever. We also see this grey is also here in the detailing, in the traps here, on the cheeks, on the ears, and here, these panels also. And it is indeed all hand painted. Dark grey and black detailing here, all hand painted, same on the back, its own particular Stormtrooper pattern. Now we're going to fast forward 3 years to the filming of The Empire Strikes Back. Here I have a replica from Trooper Master, the Maker is Trooper Master. My ANH helmet is RS Props. This is cast from an original helmet. This is a fan sculpt. This is sculpted from scratch. But this is also a very accurate helmet, relatively speaking, and you can see even here on the replicas, the shapes are very, very close. It's the same helmet, where indeed these were reconditioned. They were given another lick of paint. And one major change, I'm going to put aside my ANH helmet and concentrate on the ESB helmet, episode 5. We see here immediately the detailing is no longer paintwork. These are in fact decals or stickers. These were produced especially for the helmets. We still have similar paintwork on the ears, and we have a painted frown, but this time around they were painted black. And this is probably more in line with what people believe they see on the screen. I for one definitely always thought, yes, this frown is black, because it's, unless you look very closely to the original movie, it just looks like a dark mouth effect. Also here, what we call the tube stripes, these are in fact blue. Those I thought indeed were also black for a long time. Same story here on the ANH helmet. They were painted. That's fiddly work. I will be doing a full tutorial on building and painting or applying decals to helmets in another episode, but now at the moment we're just looking rather superficially at the actual differences. That pretty much covers the helmets. They were otherwise pretty much the same. Now let's move on to the armour itself. We'll start with the hands. The gloves in ANH episode 4 were in fact something along the lines of this. Black chemical gloves with hand guards made of latex. You can see that peeking through there. This is indeed a problem they had during filming that I've replicated here. The paint that they used to paint the latex handguards This is a natural latex colour showing through. The paint they used to paint the handguards chipped away. Some of the original work on the costumes in ANH was kind of hastily done. We'll look in more detail about helmets in another episode, another tutorial, because they were the victims of some rather shoddy work and some really strange decisions, and chipping paint. But it's a common theme. This is intentional to replicate that. White paint that doesn't stick particularly well, especially when you're rubbing against this with your forearm armour. Latex handguards painted white on black chemical workers' gloves. Now fast forward to 1980 once more, and ignore the strapping inside for the time being. That's functional but not accurate. ESB, Empire Strikes Back, introduced some new Imperial Stormtrooper characters on the planet Hoth. There's rather strange characters that looked like Ku Klux Klan members with the plastic kind of thing over their face. And these new characters had their own handguards, which looked a lot like this. These are replicas, of course. These are not the original thing, but they're a very decent replica, nice shape. And these were sewn on to the gloves that they wore. We can see here the stitching that I have added to this. There were 5 pairs of holes on each drilled in so that they could stitch these to the gloves. And these were then reused. I imagine the original gloves and handguards from ANH were lost or destroyed or in no state to be reused. And in fact, this is a much more elegant solution, to be honest. These are ABS plastic, made in the same plastic as the rest of the armour. Different shape, obviously, because it was borrowed, I presume, from the Snowtrooper costume, but it worked really well for the Stormtroopers as well. Of course, Stormtroopers wore black gloves, something along the lines of this. I've not seen any originals, but they were simple black. People talk of a satin glove. I don't believe it was actual satin. It would be something like a slightly shiny polyester, something like that. Let's have a look then at the upper armour. This is from my replica of the ANH Stormtrooper. This torso is obviously not complete. This is just the back armour and chest armour. And one small detail which changed between the two versions was here how the shoulder straps, these parts that bridged the front and the back, were fastened. There was a rather hasty solution on ANH, where in fact strips of this kind of small narrow elastic tied around just to hold them in place. There was otherwise nothing connecting these shoulder straps to the back armour, to this section of armour. They were connected, glued, or probably welded with solvent-based glue or pure solvent to the front, but at the back they were floating, and to keep them in place, if you look carefully you can even see it on the Tantive scenes, these little straps. That changed come round to Empire Strikes Back. It's difficult to know exactly what they did on Empire Strikes Back. I've looked at the screenshots a lot, and there is lots of evidence of white tape, white gaffer's tape, really kind of repairs made on the fly, nothing very elegant. And also, if you look very closely at the Empire Strikes Back Stormtroopers, you can see These costumes are getting old and they really have suffered quite a lot. They're positively falling apart. I think a lot of the internal strapping was also damaged, and there's a lot of tape on the inside and the outside just holding these together just long enough to get the shot finished, I think. We'll go into strapping and how the armour is built in other tutorials. As I say, I'm going to be building a new set of armour. I'm going to take you through it step by step, show you everything you need to do to build your own from scratch. But for the time being, we're just looking at the differences between the versions so that you can make an educated guess which version are you going to make. And you can do that before you set off and make mistakes. And you can make your armour as accurate as possible, accurate to one particular version. Now, here, I don't think this is in any way accurate. There's no evidence that this was done in the original movie, but I have had it industrial Velcro to keep them down. The main thing that interests me here is that these stay in place, and as is specified, for instance, in some of the higher requirements for higher levels of accuracy of the 501st Legion, the ESB version must not feature these elastic straps, these elastic ties. So obviously for ultimate accuracy, I could have just put some gaffer's tape on there or nothing. Some Stormtroopers even have missing shoulder straps. There's just some kind of plain strap there or just tape. They really were in a poor state, but this is kind of a compromise. Practicality, it's a little bit more elegant. You don't see necessarily from the outside that there's Velcro under there, and it just keeps it in place and makes it look like a well-preserved ESB set of armour. Otherwise, the armour was very, very, very similar. It was indeed the same sets. There was one minor difference when it came to the belt. This is a belt assembly made up for my ANH costume, A New Hope. And as you can see, the holster is hanging on there. It's semi-permanently attached. If you look at it from the front, this would be attached here, my abdomen. This is my left side. This would be kind of just around the side on the back. And this holster, this leather holster, is semi-permanently riveted to the belt. Now I've cheated a little bit here, and I have Chicago screws there with a similar kind of optical effect, but these were indeed riveted on with pop rivets, just like are on the holster itself. The belt assemblies were reused for ESB Empire Strikes Back, but for whatever reason, these holsters, which were suspended like that and riveted, they were discarded. New ones were made. I presume they were new because they then featured these loops instead of just a plain strap. And these, for whatever reason, were slipped over on the right hand side. So imagine the ANH holster is no longer there, and you have then a holster on the right hand side where you can visibly see the loops over the belt. And that was the solution for Empire Strikes Back. That was pretty much everything. The small details that make the difference between ANH and ESB, the Stormtroopers from the first two Star Wars movies. I hope this was informative. I hope it has helped you make a decision. As I say, you may already have your armor kit. Don't worry. Check that it's not a Return of the Jedi version, because they are indeed very different. If it's a kit intended for A New Hope and or Empire Strikes Back, then you can still choose either version. If you have not bought your kit yet, great. Have a look at the references, watch this video, make a decision. What do you think is going to be more to your taste, what's going to be easy to build. But even so, if you have your armour kit, the chances are your kit will feature some plastic handguards in this kind of plastic, ABS plastic, but with the shape of the handguards for ANH. So plastic, hard plastic like ESB, but with this kind of shape. You can, of course, imitate the latex handguards with plastic. It's perfectly fine. It's also acceptable for entry-level ANH Stormtrooper for the 501st Legion. If you want to go a step further and be more accurate, you're going to want to go for latex handguards. Most armor suppliers, certainly the armor suppliers that I would recommend, will be able to supply you with those. In addition, sometimes you will have both sets of handguards in your kit already and you can choose, or you may have to request it. Even so, if you bought your armor, you will probably by default receive plastic handguards in the shape of the ANH handguards, but you can contact your supplier and request some of these. It may charge you more, may send you them for free. And obviously, if beforehand you decide you're making an ESB version, you can order that and say, please include ESB handguards. As I say, the makers that I'm going to be recommending will have these available. Otherwise, online forums, a general tip, if you're planning on making any kind of Imperial Star Wars costume, even if you're not planning on joining the 501st Legion, it's a great point of contact. The forums of the 501st Legion all have a public area. You don't need to be a member to gain access to a lot of information. When I started out, all I knew is that I wanted to build a Stormtrooper and I was looking for sources of information. That turned out to be the 501st Legion. I had no intention of joining, but I still had a lot of help from them. I'm now a member. I did join in time because I just found it to be a great community, and what was really great at the beginning was that people were happy to help, happy to guide me, even though I had no intention of joining. It's just Star Wars fans helping other Star Wars fans. So do check out the 501st Legion's own forums, in particular if it's about Stormtroopers, 1st Imperial Stormtrooper Detachment, or FISD. Just Google it. The resources there are great. Talk to other people who are building their own Stormtrooper costumes. Look at all the references that are on there in the public forums. Don't just take my word for all of this. Look around, ask questions. Obviously, I'm going to be pooling all the information that I've gained. I've been making Stormtroopers for 9 years now. I think that the next one that I'm going to be making is indeed my 9th. So almost every year I build a new Stormtrooper because I just love it so much. Obviously, I've read around the subject a lot. I've gained a lot of knowledge, and I'm going to try and pool that here on my channel, produce a complete tutorial for you so that you don't necessarily have to do all the research, that you've got everything all in one place that you need. But it's always good to get other opinions. Don't take my word for everything. But for now, that's probably all from me. I will be back with another episode, some kind of tutorial in the coming week. I will come back regularly, and hopefully next time you see me, I will have my new kit. I have ordered a new armor kit, and I will be building that and filming everything. I'll be posting my progress step by step and be trying to make a tutorial out of that for you, so you can see exactly how to build your own Stormtrooper. If you did find this video useful and interesting, please do like and subscribe. As I say, I will be back regularly with videos. I will be posting tutorials, and hopefully we'll put something together. It'll be a great complete tutorial for everybody wanting to build their own Stormtrooper armour.